This is a production from the Takedown Sports. What's up, guys? T-Brown31 here from the Takedown Sports, along with J-Bot the Great. This is another episode of The Last Word. We got a bunch of topics to hit today. What's going on?
Yeah, so we'll be wrapping up round one of the NBA playoffs. We'll recap the first few games from round two and then look ahead to Thursday and Friday night's playoff matchups.
All right, it sounds great, but we're starting in the NFL today with the news of Julio Jones being traded to the Tennessee Titans.
That is very big news. If people are not aware, Julio Jones was traded to the Titans the other day for some Atlanta got some picks, and it generally was just a big win for Tennessee and a big loss for Atlanta.
Yeah, so Tennessee ended up getting Julio Jones as well as a 6th-round pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. And in return, the Falcons only got a second in next year's draft and a 4th in 23's draft. The big win for Atlanta there would be the fact that they got rid of Julio's contract for a guy that is 32. Otherwise, Tennessee absolutely won this trade by a wide margin.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee's got A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and Julio Jones now, and their offensive setup. And then Atlanta just got rid of a superstar for some picks. And yeah, they clear up the contract space. But, that's a lot of production that's just kind of null and void now. So it's going to be rough for Atlanta. But as a Panthers fan, I'm fine with him not being in my division anymore.
Yeah, that's the big outlook for any other NFC South fan that's a Panther fan, a Saint fan, or a Buck fan. Don't have to worry about Julio Jones anymore. Julio had his best career game against us, 300 yards. That was just absolutely insane. And thankfully, we really won't have to play him again. We do play the Titans every 4 years, but we'll probably play him one more time. And I think that'll be about it because he'll probably be retired. So great news for NFC South fans there. As far as the Falcons go, this does mean Calvin Ridley will be a number one receiver now. I think he does have potential to be that number one, but we've seen this with a lot of receivers. Guys go from being the number two to a great number one to go into that number one spot. And, it takes a little bit of time to adjust, but I do think Calvin Ridley definitely has them.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll make a great transition from two to one. I mean, he's been very good as the number two, and sometimes he's had to play as the one with Julio out. So I think he'll do fine in his transition to that. Maybe not as good as they were with Julio, but he'll be a fine replacement.
Yeah, I think the main thing there is that, they would have to put more attention on Julio, and that allowed Calvin to get, a lot of his catches that way. Now he's going to be a number one, so he'll be getting attention. But I think at the same time, a lot of teams will be putting attention. Let's not let's not exaggerate the injury problems this man has had. Like, he pretty much played 16 games a season every year, save for 2013 and then last year. Every other year, he's played 13 to 16 games. Dude's been insanely consistent, especially from 14 all the way to 19. Heck, he still caught 800 yards last year, even though he only played in 9 games. So Yes, he has had injury problems, but I don't think he's on his last legs or anything like that. He's 32. He's not 38. So I think we can kind of relax with the whole injury thing. I think people kind of get a little too excited. They just say, "Oh yeah, they overpaid this guy when he had injury problems, blah blah blah," and now Tennessee traded for this guy who has injury problems, blah blah blah. And he's just hold on for a little bit.
Yeah, I think people are blowing that out of proportion. I mean, it's not like he's some old man with broken legs. I think he'll be fine. He'll come out there. He'll definitely be a big producer for Ryan Tannehill. I'm not sure Ryan Tannehill has had that like level of offense to throw to. Like I know Derrick Henry is great, and then AJ Brown is good, but I mean having someone like Julio is a big thing for Tannehill, and maybe that'll also help Tannehill kind of improve a little bit in this coming season.
Yeah, Tannehill's definitely never had someone the caliber of Julio, even if Julio is 32. It's going to be a problem for that for defenses in the AFC South, especially the Texans defense. They seem to just be uh, pathetic, to say the least. But yeah, I mean, with Derrick Henry getting a lot of the attention as before, and people would focus specifically on Derrick Henry, you still can't stop him. AJ Brown was good, great at points, but he's not Julio. Not you add Julio in that mix, you got to focus on Julio. You cannot leave this man out on an island against your DB. So I think it's going to be a lot of problems for people trying to defend that Titans offense.
Yeah, I'd hate to have to face that offense twice a year. And if I'm a Texans fan this coming season, I'm just gonna pretend the season doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean the Texans might not even have like a real starting quarterback this year, so we don't know what's going to happen with their QB situation. So besides that, um, I think the Titans will probably win the AFC South again, but I think it won't be like they'll have another 10-6 season at 11-5 or something like that. I think they can win a lot more games.
Yeah, I think they'll win the division. I give them, like probably 12 or 13 wins, honestly, with how that division's kind of shaping up.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't seem like out of the realm for them. Now defense obviously has to play well, so that's yet to be seen. But with offense like that, you have a guy that is a top receiver and a top running back, and Ryan Tannehill, who is ascending and is getting better ever since he left Miami. They're going to be a problem.
I agree.
Moving on to the NBA, we got to finish up the first round of the playoffs real quick here. So first off, we had Denver and Portland play last Thursday in Game 6, and Denver closed out the series 126 to 115. Michael Porter Jr. and Jokic led the team in points with 26 and 36 respectively. Dame put up a good effort with 28 points and 13 assists, but it just simply wasn't enough to stop Denver as they win the series.
Yeah, I mean, Denver came out and did what they had to do. They were ready to move to the next round, and they moved pretty swiftly with some strong performances from Jokic and Porter Jr. Now, for the Nuggets, they're doing not too great as we move into the second round, but we'll get to that later. But Dame and the Blazers, I think they're gonna have to make some changes for that to be a successful franchise as we move forward.
I've been thinking about this for like the past few years as the Trailblazers and Dame have gotten a lot more attention in media. Um, this team's just not going to go far the way it's currently constructed. Like they got to do something differently here. It's nothing against CJ himself. It's nothing against like Dame. It's nothing against Nurkic, but they got to do something differently because every year it's just going to be Dame goes crazy in the playoffs and they get bounced in either the first, the second round. They did make the conference finals a few years ago, but it's just they got to do something. I mean, they did get rid of the coach. We know that. Um, so maybe that'll help. But I feel like basketball overall is it's a lot more about the players than the coach compared to a lot of other sports.
Yeah,
So get Dame a legitimate like star for number two. Like I know CJ is good, but at least get somebody that is at least as good as Nurkic and CJ to be alongside them and Damian. because otherwise they're just going to keep getting these first and second round exits every year.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they need is just another guy about that same caliber as CJ or Nurkic, and then they'll be able to hopefully get a little further than they've been getting.
Yep. So Denver will move on, and we'll talk more about them in a bit. So next up, we got the Los Angeles Lakers and Phoenix Suns. Game 6 was on last Thursday. And the Suns closed it out 113 to 100, ending it in 6. And the Lakers just pathetic, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that both Terrence and I didn't even like see as a possibility as LeBron to go home in the first round. Not only that, but go home in six. But it happened, and it's just kind of a lot of factors. As some of the Lakers players didn't show up in Game 6. Some of them showed up too late. Some of them kind of left too early. It was just an overall sad performance to see the Lakers go out like that. But I mean, the Suns have shown that they mean business, and they move forward confidently.
So going back to game 5, obviously that's when they had the first, big blowout game and everything. And I'm saying, okay, there's no way you can play worse than you did in game 5, right? And they immediately come out, only scored 14 points in the first quarter. A lot of Suns scored darn near 40. Now the Lakers did um, win the next 2 quarters and then tie in the fourth quarter, but it doesn't matter. Like you let a team outscore you by 22 in the first quarter, you're probably done. Um, the big issue, AD came back, a valiant effort. Yeah, he just wasn't able to go after a few minutes. And I said this before the game on the last episode. It was like, yo, if you cannot go, like just don't force yourself,
Yeah.
because there's no. I know you can't tell a player like not to go out and fight for his team in an elimination game. But if the Lakers are going to lose regardless, what's the difference between him not playing at all and them losing, and him playing a few minutes, getting injured, and then them lose? The only difference there is the fact that he's, more injured now. So, valiant effort, like I said, but Anthony just had no business playing.
Yeah, it definitely put the Lakers in a worse position coming into the offseason. Of course, Anthony's not in like a terrible position with his injury. He'll be back just fine. But it's extra stress you don't want to have to deal with. And like since they ended up losing and losing pretty bad, it didn't really make too much of a difference. And he probably should have just rested. And maybe even it would have been a little better on the team morale if he wouldn't have gone out and snapped himself again. So, but what happened happened, and the Lakers would have to look to next season and try to bounce back. It's not like they're in a terrible position. They won the chip last year, so they're not doing terrible. It's just overall a lot of bad situations piling on each other.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they should blow up the team or anything because they kind of did that this past off season after winning. They kept a few guys, but a lot of guys they shipped off and brought in some new guys. So there's no reason to really blow the team, but there's no reason, you start going out or not. There's no reason to come out like that. I mean, that's just embarrassing. Like you gotta do better than that. All right, so moving into the last series for round 1, we had the Clippers and the Mavericks. Now they started losing 2 games. The Clippers did, then won 2, and the Mavericks came back, won the next one. Now we're into game 6, where they won 104 to 97 last Friday. And then on Sunday in game 7, Clippers won 126 to 111. Despite the fact that Luka put up 46 points, it just was not enough for Dallas.
Yeah, I mean that game started pretty close. It was like trying to trading bucket for bucket. Well, the Clippers ended the first half up 8, and then the Mavericks brought it back, and kind of was trading bucket for bucket. And at one point, it was 81 to 81. This is game 7, and then from there, the Mavericks fell apart. Clippers just went on a 24-4 run, and I mean, it was over. That was that the Mavericks went home. And you can't play like that in a winner go home game. You can't just fall apart in the second half. So, you hate to see it, but they got to do better than that. And Kristaps Porzingis was just terrible.
I don't know what Chris Naps is talking about. Oh, I don't feel like a true number 2. Well, you ain't playing like one. Maybe if you would play like the 7-foot monster you are. you wouldn't feel minimized, bro. I mean, obviously coaching could do better, setting him up and everything, but there's just no reason this man should be out here like shooting threes all game. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, you're huge, get inside, kill some dudes.
I've never seen like a 7-3 guy miss that many inside shots either. Like
Oh yeah,
you're shooting over so many short people. How are you missing, bro? Like just set it in. You're 7-3. You can't be like shooting that badly. Not from in the paint. It's just terrible.
yeah. I mean, you can't. I mean, he did get the most rebounds in Game 7, but it wasn't by like a huge margin. And he played darn near as many minutes as the entire game was. So Kristaps, he just got to do better. As simple as that. I know Knicks fans are probably celebrating right now, thinking that they're like, hey, he won the trade there. If you want to say that, go ahead. Um, y'all probably didn't expect Kristaps to just turn into the anti-unicorn at this point in Dallas, but he's got to do better. Um, Overall, they need to get Lucas some help because this man's putting up darn near 50 every game, and they ended up losing the series to the better team, I think. But they could have easily won the series. Like, you go up 2-0 in LA, and then you lose every home game coming back. I mean, come on, you gotta do better than that.
Yeah, and then I guess to kind of transition and give flowers where they do. I mean, the Clippers did great in the last few games. Kawhi turned into the cyborg in Game 6 and went off for like 45, and then Marcus Morris in Game 7. I don't think he usually shoots like that, at least not that much, but he made I think at least like 7 threes. And I mean, he just him and Reggie Jackson at the end of that game just kept piling the threes on. Anytime the Mavericks would seem to have some sort of spark, like they were coming back, they would just leave Marcus or Reggie wide open and allow themselves to go right back down in the hole. So, I mean, great offense by the Clippers and great defense. Paul George was terrible offensively, but he helped out on defense. I mean, the Mavericks had like maybe two people consistently score in double digits through the series, so they did their job.
Yeah, I mean, when you have Marcus Morris and Reggie Jackson that hot, then you're really in good position there because you don't want Kawhi to have to score 40 points for them to be able to win. Like I was just saying with Luka, Paul George definitely needs to show up for sure because he's supposed to be a superstar or at least a star. And when he does show up, he shows up, but he has to show up consistently, be that number two for Kawhi. The rest of the team has to show up. They did, and they're on to round two. So now we're in round two of the playoffs, and we're going to start on the Eastern Conference side. First up, we got Brooklyn Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks. We both expected this to be a pretty good series, but as of right now, they ain't looking like it. Game one, Brooklyn won 115 to 107. Not a huge deal with James Harden going out in the first minute. But game two, whole different story. Brooklyn won 125 to 86, still without James Harden, and with the starters only playing about three quarters. I don't know what's wrong with the Bucks right now.
I don't know if the Brooklyn atmosphere got to him, or if they just forgot what defense is. Uh, the other problem is like Chris shot 6 for 23 in the first game, and in general in the second game, like people were like the shots they were taking are not shots that they usually miss, and it was just really unlucky. And I hope that as they enter Milwaukee for these next two games, they even up the series 2-2. If they don't come out of Milwaukee at 2-2, that's over. And especially if they lose tonight, it's over. But it has been pitiful. I hope this series goes to seven, and I hope the Bucks come out with it. But if they play like this, they going home the same way they sent Miami home, and I will cry.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this for the past 2 years. It seems like they get to the playoffs, they get about a round in, and then they die. I don't know what it is with these guys. I'm not a person that's going to be like, oh, Giannis chokes in the playoffs every year. Oh, the Bucks just they can't win in the playoffs. Blah 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 blah. Because that's a little too much for me. I mean, at the end of the day, the Brooklyn Nets are a better team, but there's really no excuse for you to lose this bad against a team that is not that much better than you.
Yeah,
Because
I
once
mean,
again, James Harden was out.
Yeah, James Harden's out. You look at how they did in the regular season. All the games they played were close. It's just kind of like, where did this come from? Like, what happened? I mean, they had that long rest. They shouldn't be tired. I don't know. Maybe the rest did it to it. Maybe they just got too relaxed, which seems to be what the Bucks did for the past few years. Is they get too relaxed and they allow themselves to fall into a hole, and then it's over. So I don't know. These games should not have gone that way. I mean, I could see Brooklyn winning both games, honestly, but not by the amount they did. I mean, the game two loss is almost by like 40. So it's just they got to do something better, or they'll be on vacation early.
Yeah, I mean, this is unacceptable when you have a team that is a 3 seed. Like, they're not the 8 seed going up against the 1 seed in the first round or something. I mean, this is the second round. They're the 3 seed, third best team on the East. And they get beat up like this with a two-time MVP on your team, with an all-star shooter and Chris Middleton, who went darn near 20 minutes without making a shot in game two to start. I mean, they just, I don't think that they'll come out in game three and shoot as poorly as they did. But if they don't stop KD, and you can't stop KD, but if you don't at least slow him down, and James Harden isn't playing in game three, so we'll get that in a minute. But if they can't stop Kyrie, if they can't slow down KD, and they let Blake Griffin run over them, and if they let whoever else run over them, Joe Harris, whoever else it is, they're going home pretty soon.
Uh, I will say, just a quick update as the Bucks are playing at this moment. They are up 9-0. So maybe this will be a turnaround here in Milwaukee, but we'll see.
We'll see. All right, so moving on to the other Eastern Conference semifinal series, we have the Hawks and Philadelphia. Game one, the Hawks pull off the upset there, 128 to 124. Trae Young putting in work with 35 points and 10 assists. But game two, Philly came back and won 118 to 102 behind a incredible effort from Joel Embiid, 40 points, 13 rebounds in 35 minutes.
Yeah, this one, this series, I believe the Hawks grabbed their consolation prize early. I mean, they got that game one win. Uh, Atlanta fans started piping up again, but I think that's the only game they get in the series. I mean, the Sixers are the better team by a wide margin. Joel Embiid's not going to drop 40 and 13 every game. 13 maybe, but the 40 probably not. But either way, this team, they're outmatched. I think they kind of got the drop on them in game one, stole the first game. Now the Sixers know what the Hawks are about. They know not to take this lightly, and they're probably going to take them out in five.
Yeah, I mean, like we said in the last episode, how long this series would go would be contingent on how healthy Embiid is and how much he plays. Played 35 minutes and put up 40. So I think we're seeing full Embiid right now. So, yeah, the 76ers should win the next three games. Um, the Hawks, amazing season considering where they were earlier in the season before Nate McMillan came in. Trae Young, obviously, in the first round, just destroyed the hopes and dreams of the Knicks. But they're probably going home pretty soon. So moving over to the Western Conference semifinals, we have the Suns and the Denver Nuggets matching up. Game one, the Suns got the win 122 to 105 behind a total team effort from the Suns. Devin Booker with 21, CP3 with 21 and 11 assists, Michael Bridges with 23, and DeAndre Ayton putting in 20 points as well. And then they also won game two, 123 to 98 behind another total team effort. Michael Bridges was 16, DeAndre Ayton was 15, Booker and Chris Paul with 18 and 17. So overall, great effort from the Suns in the first two games. And this series is pretty surprising to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, Nikola Jokic is getting his MVP curse immediately. Not even a chance to like blow it in the next round or anything. He's already down 2-0 in the second round here against the Suns. Now Phoenix is the second seed. We shouldn't take the Suns lightly. They are technically the better team, and honestly, on paper, they probably are the better team. Now, do I expect Denver to get blown out in the first two games? No. Uh, so hopefully, they'll come to Denver and make the series a little more interesting. but they've just been getting destroyed. I mean, they let Chris Paul last night go for 15 assists and 0 turnovers. Like, you gotta stop those assists from happening. I think sometimes people forget how important assists really are. But that's 2 to 3 points every assist, and you can't just allow someone to get 15 of those and never get punished. So Denver's gotta play some defense or they're going home early.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they are the 2 seed and Denver's a 3 seed. But, just like with the Nets and Milwaukee, that doesn't mean that they should just be getting handled like that, right? I mean, like the game should at least be close. Um, Now we know obviously Jamal Murray is out. We don't really know the timetable with him. I'm not sure if he's even going to be back at this point. I haven't seen any updates recently. But if they don't get Jamal Murray back, they could very possibly be going home. And heck, they keep playing like this, maybe in 4 or 5. I do think Denver will come back. Jokic is probably going to be pretty motivated going back to Denver, having just won the MVP. I think they could pull out a win in game 3 or 4, but they absolutely have to at this point because there's really no reason for them to have gotten beat that badly. They have to play defense, like you said.
Yeah, Jamal Murray being out is definitely a big thing for them. That's one of their top offensive producers coming, or not being there. They did get Will Barton back, and Will Barton was one of their better players through the regular season until he went out. And he got an early block last night, made it seem like he was going to come back in full form, and then they lost by 20 something. So it's just they got to change. They got to get people fired up in Denver. Get some score points and stop people from scoring, and maybe we'll have an interesting series. But yeah, if they without Jamal Murray coming back, if they keep this pace up, bye bye Denver.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have more from your top guys because right now, your top guys would be Jokic, of course, and then Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon. Where were they in game 2? Michael Porter Jr. with 11 points in 28 minutes, and Aaron Gordon 6 points in 20 minutes, 1 rebound, no assist. Like, come on, man. Like, they got you out of the wasteland in Orlando. I figured, Aaron Gordon being on the team now, like obviously he's not a top 5 player, but he's a very good player. You gotta do a lot more than that, man. I mean, you definitely helped out in the last series, so you gotta show up. Jokic can't do this by himself, and it seems to be a recurring theme. Teams just have to show up in the playoffs. As simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Jokic can't do it all himself. He is the MVP, right? So he is the most valuable player on the team, but he's not the only player on the team. Other people got to put up points. Somebody at the caliber of Aaron Gordon can't go out in a game 2 already down 1-0 and put up 6 points. That's not going to work. So definitely got to see some more production from Porter Jr. and Gordon, which I expect, but you never know. I expected them to be producing in the first 2 games, and that was wrong.
All right. So moving on to the other matchup, we have the Clippers and the Jazz. And in game 1, the Utah Jazz got the victory. Donovan Mitchell went absolutely crazy. 45 points in 37 minutes to lead them to a 112-109 victory in Utah.
Now, I don't see this theory as being a sweep, but I do think that I'm one of the few people who's not counting on the upset here. I think the Jazz will come out as the first seed and do what they need to do. I mean, sure, they should have played better in game 1 when you consider all factors. The Clippers just came off of game 7. They should be tired. The Jazz should have scored a lot more. They almost blew a 10-point lead within 5 minutes. But I think overall what we saw from the Jazz was not it's something the Jazz should be worried about. I mean, great defense in the last play. Donovan Mitchell, of course, is not going to play like that every game, but he is going to be fired up probably for the whole series. He's their main offensive contributor. Now, I think the series will go to 6 or 7, but I do think that the Clippers are outmatched, and I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Yeah, this might sound weird, but Utah is incredibly underrated as a number 1 seed. I mean, they just really don't get as much credit as they should. I mean, they're the number 1 seed in the West for a reason. And how many more times does Donovan Mitchell have to go off before people realize this man is a star, bona fide star? I mean, it's like people get surprised when they see him go off. I mean, he did it last year in the playoffs against the Nuggets. I mean, this is what he does. Um, I can definitely see a Utah Suns matchup in the conference finals, and that would be interesting. I know a lot of casual fans may not like it because it's not the LA matchup. But if Utah plays like this, if Cyborg Kawhi and pending name P right now, if they don't show up the way they did to end last series, then they're going home.
Yeah, I've never seen a 1 seed treated like an 8 seed before, but that's what it feels like the Jazz are treated as. Like everyone just every matchup they've been in, like, they're going home. People thought the Grizzlies would beat the Jazz in like 6. Like that's an 8th seed against the 1 seed. What are you talking about? Now we move to the Clippers and it's only 1 versus 4, which is a little better than 1 versus 8, but still, they're the 1 seed for the reason. Like I know you can look at the Bucks in the past few years, be the 1 seed and they collapsed to like the 5th seed last year. But I don't think that's the kind of team the Jazz have. They really are a really gritty team. They shoot the three well. They defend well. Now they defend well with Rudy on the court. I think if you take, they have they're one of the higher defensive rated teams in the league. But I'm pretty sure if you pull Rudy out, they're like second to last. So you got to have him on the court. But he seems healthy. He hasn't had any kind of injuries there, and I think they'll be fine in this series. It'll definitely be long. It might tire them out, which may help the Suns or the Nuggets, but looking like the Suns. But yeah, I think the Jazz will bounce away from this kind of scary game one.
Yeah, I mean, Rudy Gobert won Defensive Player of the Year for a third time just now for a reason. All right. I mean, you take him out and the entire team defensively changes. So that's why he gets the big minutes. That's why he got the big money. I'm sorry, Shaq, but he got the big money for a reason. Um, I feel like some people just don't like Rudy. The whole thing last year with the microphone, I guess that was pretty stupid. But besides that, he's one of the best defensive players in the league year in and year out. And you have a star, not in the making, but a star right now with Donovan Mitchell. And this Jazz team is going to be special.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that. I think the Jazz have kind of the perfect, like you can call it the young duo. I don't think Rudy's super young, but he's not old either. But they have their offensive like flamethrower, and they've got their shot blocker, their person who can lock someone down. I mean, they've got the perfect duo. So they're a scary team.
Very indeed. So now we're on to the four matchups for Thursday, Friday. First off, we're starting with the Bucks and Brooklyn, which is going on right now, as you mentioned earlier. And the Bucks are killing Brooklyn right now, 28-9, 2 minutes left in the first quarter. Giannis has 13 points with 6 rebounds in 10 minutes, and Chris Middleton is going full 15 points and 7 rebounds in 10 minutes. So I guess they heard all of the noise from us, from social media, from everybody. They're not very happy with the way they've been treated in the media. So they're definitely showing up.
This is actually kind of crazy. It's like they're the only two people to have scored for the Bucks in that quarter, and yet they're up 30-9. And so it's just, I mean, if they keep this pace, that'd be great. But yeah, they must have heard what's been going on, and they have had to have been, preparing for this. They want to come home. They want to defend home court. You definitely don't want to lose by 40 at home. So they've made progress, and if this pace continues, the series will probably be 2-1 by the end of the night.
On the flip side, KD only 2 points so far in 11 minutes, and Kyrie only 2 points so far in 11 minutes. Uh, they got to score. Blake Griffin right now is leading with 3 points in 7 minutes, and Bruce Brown is the only other scorer for the Nets. You cannot score 10 points in a quarter. We still have a minute to go, but you can't score 10 minutes in a quarter. Like that's just ridiculous. Excuse
I
me,
guess
10 points in a quarter. But yeah, like that's just ridiculous.
I guess this series is going to be a series of trading blowouts if it continues this way, which is definitely not what I expected.
Yeah, because I was thinking, all right, it's probably going to be a lot closer of a game, but I was not expecting Milwaukee to just come out and slaughter Brooklyn to start. But we'll see. The game will be over in a few hours, so we'll see after that if our prediction will be correct.
Then we move over to the other game later tonight, which will be the Clippers at the Jazz, as the Clippers look to even the series, and the Jazz look to put the Clippers in a 2-0 hole.
So, how do you think this one is going to turn out?
I think it'll be a close game, just as game one was. I don't think the Clippers are exhausted. I think they're just still riding kind of the heat wave that they rode to send the Mavericks home. But I think the Jazz, are definitely prepared for that. They now know for sure, all right, the Clippers are hungry. They want to take us home. They almost beat us in game one at home. So I think they're going to come out strong. And I don't think they'll clamp anybody. Like, I don't think Kawhi or PG is going to end up not scoring a lot. PG maybe. But I think overall, the Jazz's shooters who didn't shoot well on in game one will probably shoot better, and they'll probably edge out this game as well.
Oh, injury update here. Mike Conley will not be playing game two. He didn't play in game one, so that is something to look out for. Um, Obviously, the Clippers didn't use it to their advantage in game one, but game two, knowing that Conley's out again, maybe that'll help. He is pretty much their number three, I guess you could say. So that'll be a pretty big deal there. Um, I do think the Clippers will pull out a win. I don't think they'll lose a game, two games back to back. I should say. Now, obviously, Utah's a lot better and has a more complete team than the Mavericks do. But I think Kawhi will come out, do Kawhi things. It seems now that we get the best Kawhi when his back is against the wall. It seems.
Yeah, for sure.
A few years ago when they were down in the Eastern Conference Finals 2-0 and to the Bucks, and they win the next four games in the finals. Is back against the wall. They win that, and just this last series, their backs are against the wall multiple times. They come back, so I think the Clippers will pull out a win if and only if Kawhi goes off, and if Paul George shows up and is not pandemic P but playoff P.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I'm still gonna go with the Jazz, but I do think that your possibility here is very possible. That was bad wording.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned over the past 2 weeks to just expect the unexpected with these playoffs, man. Honestly.
Okay, so we go to Friday, and our first game Friday will be the 76ers at the Hawks. Now, kind of talked on this earlier where I said I think the Sixers will win this one in five, and I think you agreed.
Yeah, I don't see the Hawks winning another game here unless something happens with MB's injury. And knock on wood, nothing happens. We don't want to see injuries, of course. But unless something like that happens, I don't see Atlanta winning another game. I do think Trae Young will go off, but I don't think it'll really matter at the end. Ben Simmons, we didn't touch on this earlier, but Ben Simmons has to score. Like, I know the man is obviously not a scorer by any means as far as being a knockdown shooter, but dude, like you gotta score, man. Like, at the end of the day, that's what basketball at its core is about. You put the ball in the hoop, all right? So putting up less than 10 points in a playoff game, and we've seen this from Ben Simmons before, but this, a few years ago, I figured we were past this. Putting up less than 10 points in a playoff game as a starting guard, guard, forward, hybrid, it's just unacceptable for this man. So he needs to score. Now I don't think they'll really need him to put up 40 or some crap like that to win. As long as Embiid plays well, as long as Tobias Harris plays well, and Ben puts up some points, plays good defense, they should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, Ben did clamp Trey. Clamp. He held him to 20, which I mean, for Trey, that's pretty good. But yeah, he's got to put points on the board. You can't just run around as a 6'11" point guard and not score much. It's kind of like the Aaron Gordon thing. You're expected to put points up for your team. You got to go out and do that. So, thanks for the defensive effort, but you need both out of a two-way guy like that.
Yep. And then the last game that we have on Friday, we have the Suns heading to Denver to play the Nuggets in game three, of course. The Suns are already up to the games to nothing. What do you think is going to happen in this game?
If the Nuggets don't change their mindset and the way that they're playing, I think they'll fall into a 3-0 hole. But I think going back to Denver, they're down 2-0. They're probably angry. They want to get on the board. I think though it won't be a blowout, but I think they'll maybe come off maybe like a game winner, 3 to 5 point win at most, and not even enough, but bring the series to 2-1.
If Denver plays like they did before, you were mentioning, Aaron Gordon, doesn't play well and Michael Porter Jr. doesn't play well, even if Jokic plays well, they're just not going to win. Um, Being home, I'm not really sure if that means much. Like I said earlier, it should motivate them, but heck, I really don't know at this point. Being at home or on the road really matters much for these playoffs. Um, I I feel like Denver's going to win. I just can't see them going down 3 games at this point. Because if they do, they would then have to come back from a 3-1 deficit. They did last year against the Clippers, but I can't see them doing that again. So I think Denver should get the win, and they pretty much have to get the win here.
Yeah, I mean, the Suns have been extremely good, and I know that the Suns players have said that their crowd has been influential to kind of just the atmosphere and how hot they've gotten. So maybe that will be taken away from the Suns and might cool them off some. But I don't really think it will. I think this would be a hard fought game, and the Nuggets are gonna have to give it their all to try to make this 2-1.
All right, guys. So we're moving on to our last topic for the day, which is some more news in the NFL with Aaron Rodgers reportedly holding out of minicamp. So, do you really think that this is going to last?
Uh, I don't know. So we've heard that Jordan Love did really good in practice yesterday. But at the same time, like this, I can't see the Packers allowing Aaron Rodgers just to hold out. Like I feel like they're going to want to remedy that situation. Uh, the reigning MVP just holding out the very next season. Like I can't understand why the Packers would allow that to happen. Either put him somewhere where he can play, or let him play there by giving him what he wants.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see a situation where they trade him. I mean, if they trade him, they have to get, besides the fact that he's 37, he is the reigning MVP, 3-time MVP, Super Bowl champ, one of the best QBs that ever lived. You got to get a good amount of compensation for that. And we're so close to the season. Like, we're already at, a month and a half removed from the draft. Free agency, that's pretty much all done with. There aren't really a lot of trades being made right now. We're getting to the point where everything's pretty much set in stone. We'll have training camp soon, preseason soon, then the actual season starts in about 3 months. So I don't see a situation where they trade him. So they kind of just, I'm not a fan of a player taking a team hostage, but they got to do what this man wants them to do at this point. Like, you got to listen to Aaron Rodgers because you cannot go into the season with Jordan Love as a QB. I don't care how good he looks in practice, man.
Yeah, I agree. Like you just to give the man what he wants and get your MVP back. And like as far as trading him goes, most rosters are pretty much set where they want to be. And the rosters that aren't set don't have enough to give the Packers for them to rationalize getting rid of Aaron Rodgers. Like the people who would be fine with just getting rid of what they have, taking Aaron Rodgers, probably cannot offer the Packers something worth it. So at this point, it's just like give him what he wants and fix your team.
Yeah, I think Aaron will come around eventually. I mean, he seems to be having the time of his life right now. He's engaged. He's got friends. He's chilling. He's on vacation not too long ago. I mean, he's having a good time. Not that Aaron Rodgers really needs to be in mini camp. I don't think he has to really practice 5 hours a day, anything like that. I think he's fine. But I think they'll come to a resolution at some point. It might not be, until July. So we're not going to be doing constant updates on this. But since this was the biggest development, since draft day, essentially, when all this news initially broke. Um, so we'll just have to see. Like you said, they just got to do what this man wants at this point. There's really not much else they can do unless they can get a lot of compensation. We see Denver floating around a lot. Um, Denver would obviously, have a huge upgrade at QB if they were to get Aaron Rodgers, but the compensation that you have to give up, would it be worth it in that sense?
Yeah, like I don't even know what the Denver Broncos could give up to get Rodgers without essentially ruining the rest of their team. So, but yeah, it's June. The season isn't going to start for a while. Preseason isn't even going to start for a while. Plenty of time for them to figure this out and have it, kind of set and let Rodgers play with the Packers again. If somehow they either end up Rodgers not playing next season, they have to start with Jordan Love, or if they trade this man or something. worst decision in like franchise history, and it's gonna be look like they're gonna be laughed at for a while.
Yeah, you can count on that. So that'll be it for this episode, guys. We hope you enjoyed it. If you want to check out the podcast on Spotify, the link in the description will take you right to it, and you can listen there or stay and listen on YouTube. Either way, we hope you enjoy this episode and future episodes. This has been T Brown 31 from the Takedown Sports with J Bot the Great. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see y'all later.